is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Schola in the new Full Battle Rattle studios.
We're going to stand up and we're going to speak out. And it may take some renegades going rogue to get us there. It may take folks shaking it up to get there.
The hills are alive with the roar of grizzlies. A very special edition of the Palin Update today as we are joined by Debbie Turner. Turner played Marta Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. Turns out she's a big fan of Sarah Palin, and guess what? Governor Palin is a fan of Turner and the iconic movie. Stay tuned for a look back at the film, Turner's thoughts on Palin and Trump, and we find out what she's doing now with her highly successful floral company. Debbie Turner of The Sound of Music coming up. Plus, we'll have the latest national and Alaska headlines in Sarah Palin news. We'll visit the Crow's Nest with Tanya Crow in California, and a brand new installment of Liberty and Legacy with Tamara Colbert is coming up from Texas. Kelly Carlson on assignment, no on target this week. We're looking forward to Kelly's return. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio, available at mamagrizzlyradio.com and now available at sarahpalin.com by clicking the More tab. The Palin Update is sponsored by Full Battle Rattle. Full Battle Rattle, helping veterans suffering from combat-related disabilities through the healing power of music. Learn more at facebook.com/fullbattlerattle.abq. Sarah Palin loves The Sound of Music. Today, we're happy to be joined by the woman who played Marta Von Trapp. Debbie Turner has accomplished so much more since her days on the film. She's been very influential in Minnesota and national politics, and she has an amazing flower business, Debbie Turner Originals. We're excited to have her on with us today. And right now, we welcome Debbie Turner to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Debbie, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Kevin, how are you today?
I am great. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And I mean, you know, Sound of Music so many years ago, and still you have so many fans across this country. I know during Christmas time a lot, the movie's on. And I mean, if you don't know The Sound of Music, I mean, you know, I don't know where you've been living. People quote the movie, talk about the movie, sing the songs. I mean, when you were in that movie, could you have thought, I mean, that it would have had such an impact, especially, you know, so many decades later?
You know, nobody had a clue, or, you know, possibly the people that put it together had a clue, but I certainly didn't. I was 7. I didn't have a clue about anything. but I don't think, you know, any of our parents and, you know, a couple of the people that, you know, were the children in the movie were already very established actors, and I don't even think they knew. So, no, it was a very wonderful surprise that it has stayed this long. I mean, we're on year 52, so hard to believe.
Yeah,
Thank God I was one of the younger kids.
There you go. You're still a young woman. And my, you know, my daughter now. I mean, she even has checked it out the last couple of years, and you know, kids now enjoying it still. So yeah, it's got to make you feel good, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. And it's kind of cool, you know, every once in a while I'll come upon somebody that has named their daughter Marta after my character, which that's very endearing to me to know that. So,
well, I'll try to give you somewhat a story on that avenue. It's not Marta, though, but I will tell you our Labrador of 13 years who passed away in 2008 was named Liesel. And spelled a little different, but it was after the film. The family decided Liesel was a Christmas baby. She came home, she was born in November, came home Christmas time, and she was named Liesel. And you run into people, and right away, that's the overwhelming, either they've never heard the name, or they say, oh, Sound of Music, and right away, that's what you get.
You know, interesting you say that. Charmian Carr, who played Liesel, loved Labradors. She had a Labrador, at least one or two, her entire life.
Wow.
So yeah,
I did not know that.
Always had. Yep, she loved her labs. She always had beautiful labs.
See that? So there is something to it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, but it does come up a lot. And of course, you know, as iconic as a movie can get, just really an American treasure. And your role in that celebrated. People, you know, loved your part as they did of all the children in the movie. And, you know, since you've been in the movie and years later, you're seeing, you know, Governor Palin running for vice president, and hearing her speak. And your family was a Reagan household growing up, right? And then you hear Governor Palin, and I've said this many, many times. I mean, very similar, right? You had that feel good.
You're
feeling.
making all sorts of summations, and you are spot on.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you any of that. You're right.
Yeah.
No, I'm from California, and we were a Reagan family, and my dad, I think the first time that I was able to vote was the year that Ford ran, and my dad suggested that I write in Ronald Reagan, so I did.
That's great.
Isn't that crazy?
That is great. I love that your dad sounds like me with my kids now who are way too young to vote, but same thing. I mean, this last election, we voted for President Trump. We voted for 2 other guys on the ballot, and the other 5 were write-ins because, you vote for who's best, not for, who you're told to vote for.
Very good.
But then here you are, I think the Governor Palin had the effect on you that she had on many of us across this country when she came on the national scene. And here's this woman who's out there, speaking like Ronald Reagan, and you're making you feel good about your country instead of what we saw these last 8 years before President Trump was elected, of course. And then you took it further down the road a few years later, right, with Governor Palin. I know you were mentioned in the Our Sarah Made in Alaska book by Chuck Heath Sr. and Jr. They talked about you,
That's right.
and they talked about your love of the governor. But the funny thing is, and this is so typical of Governor Palin, she loves Sound of Music and probably wanted to talk more about you.
That's how this all started. Now, let's back up a little bit. The Republican convention was here in Minneapolis that year, and I was chosen as one of two florists that got to do the decorations for all the different things at the convention. And I was actually slated to do the McCain offices and all their area and stuff. And so I happened to be there when she gave her speech, and I watched it live, and I was in awe. I thought, oh my gosh, who is this person? And so anyway, let's see, when did she write her book? The next year?
Well,
the first.
Yeah, Going Rogue, yes.
Going Rogue. So my kids loved her, so they wanted to go. When she did her book signing at the Mall of America, they wanted to meet her and get a book and have it signed by her. So we all showed up at Mall of America at about 5 in the morning, and it was, December 7th, and it was just ungodly cold. I think it was below 0 that day. So we stood outside for
nice Minnesota
2 hours.
day.
Oh, gosh, standing still. And anyway, so we got to know everybody in line around us and stuff. We ended up being in line for over 7 hours by the time we got in. And the gal in front of us, she says, oh, my gosh. She goes, I have to introduce you to Sarah, because you were in The Sound of Music, and I know that she loves The Sound of Music. So she went ahead of me with her book, and then she pointed at me and said, that's Marta from The Sound of Music. So when I went up there to get her to sign my book, she nearly jumped over the table, and she goes, oh, my God, I'm such a fan. I'm so in awe right now. I'm starstruck. She said that to me with 10,000 people behind me waiting to get her signature.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, well, this is kind of awkward, but okay. So she told me, she goes, I want you to go meet my folks. They're in the green room, which happened to be in the Barnes & Noble over there. She goes, go see them and have this guy tell you. And the guy who was like her handler or whatever, she goes, tell him that I said so. So I walked up to him and I said, Sarah wants me to meet her parents in the green room. And he looks at me, rolls his eyes, and goes, right. And he goes over to, whisper in Sarah's ear, and he goes, okay, and points at me, and I can see that they're talking about us. And she goes, I sure did. She goes, you let them in.
That's great.
So we went in the green room, and we got to know Chuck and Sally and her Aunt Katie, and I forgot who all else was back there, but we got to know and visit with them for about 45 minutes, and they invited us to come to Wasilla. So we did. We ended up, my daughter and I, and my dear friend Jackie Emmer, who at the time, her husband Tom was running for governor of Minnesota. He hadn't gotten Sarah Palin's endorsement, so Jackie flew with me, and we went over there, and she got Sarah's endorsement for Tom, and we hung out with the Heath family for a couple of days. Actually, it was really fun. So that's how I got to know them. And we
Well,
still actually keep in touch.
and it's so very typical of anyone who actually meets Governor Palin. I mean, everyone wants to meet her, and then she's always talking about you. I mean, that
Yeah.
she, and it's genuine. And like you said, there you are, right? 7 hours, thousands of people in front and in back of you, and then she's like, "Hey, look who's here!" And she's ready to see you. And I mean,
I know
this is
amazing.
what she does. I mean, her appearances on this program, the television that we've done together. She's talking to me about my kids and about my coaching and about what's going on. And I'm like, Governor, we're going to talk about you, right? And it always turns back the other way. And I think that's where, you see these fervent supporters of Governor Palin because it's real and it's not, what we have seen from Washington for so long and from everywhere else. It's a real person, or I like to say about her, an ordinary person who does extraordinary things.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Now,
her family is wonderful too.
Tom Emmer was on this program when running, and after receiving the endorsement of Governor Palin, and you're known for your acting, but you have really helped out in the political world in that way. Helping Emmer in Minnesota. I mean, so that's
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and a Palin endorsed
it's
candidate.
Hard to believe, and now he's our congressman, but yeah, it's pretty crazy, to think that I had a little tiny piece of something that helped them launch into that. So
yeah, and I mean, as you know, and as I'm sure Congressman Emmer knows now and knew then, there's no bigger prize than to get that Palin endorsement, and people want it, but she doesn't give it unless it's warranted, and so
right.
it's a winner all around if you get it. So great deal.
Yeah.
How is Minnesota doing? I mean, you said your district, is more Republican. How do you feel your state's doing now? What's your take on the nation right now with our new president about a half a year in?
I couldn't be more proud to be an American and to be proud of our president and the things that he has done since he got in as president. He's absolutely got the same values that I have, and that he thinks the same way I do, and even his silly sense of humor, which I want to say half of the nation doesn't have a sense of humor because they think it's serious stuff.
It's mind-boggling.
I think he's a crack up. I really think he's funny.
And I appreciate that, you from California and now a long time in Minnesota. I grew up 15 minutes from Trump. So, I mean, I get this. My grandmother gets it. This is how we talk. So when I hear people offended by something that's clearly a lighthearted jab or trying to make people laugh, it boggles the mind. You're like, really? That one went over your head?
Well, yeah, I think people are too sensitive. They have no sense. A lot of people just don't have a sense any longer. And what they think is funny, Kathy Griffin.
Yeah.
I was so appalled. I was so appalled at that. I didn't even want to look at the picture that she took.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. There's nothing funny about that at all.
Well, and
I don't care who the president is or the person is.
Of course. And the good news about a lot of these far left liberals like the Griffins of the world, when they do something like this, it's really not hard to boycott what they do because their stuff isn't any good anyway.
That's true.
So,
I think she was just trying to get some attention because that's what the old adage, any publicity is good publicity, but I'm sorry, this day and age, you just can't be that raunchy and get away with it. I'm sorry.
Tell us a little.
Not okay.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Debbie Turner Originals, DTO Flowers. You mentioned doing the floral work at the RNC, but tell us. I mean, you have a great company.
Yeah, well, I started this little company back in 1989, just doing little silk flower arrangements for people, and it kind of evolved into doing weddings. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity or not to look at some of my work, but I've gotten to where we've done some pretty big things, and we're a little tiny company, and we do amazing stuff. And I started doing weddings probably in the early 90s, so now I guess I'm quite a veteran. I look back and think, oh my gosh, it's 2017, I'm getting old. But I've perfected it, and big complicated weddings are just absolutely a joy to me. Hard work, it's very physical work, but I love it, and I've been so fortunate and blessed that I've had some amazing clients and some amazing jobs, and so I keep doing it. So, one of the things that I still want to do someday is I would like to be part of the decorating team for the White House. And so I hope if Mr. Trump is listening, or Mrs. Trump actually, who would be in charge of this, hear me. I want to do it. So anyway, I've been doing Christmas decorating. I've done some pretty amazing trees for clients that live around the lake out in the area where I am, and 10 to 15-foot trees sometimes, and even taller once in a while. But I don't know. It's fun. It's my joy.
Well, that's really cool. Debbie Turner Originals. Wow. Well, you make these personal relationships, too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Debbie, it's a pleasure talking to you. And, you're in one of these films, The Sound of Music, that you get new fans each and every day. And that's we're being literal there. I mean, all over the world, people checking you out from all ages. And here you are still, in everybody's forefront of entertainment, that's for sure. So we appreciate that. We really appreciate what you've done for our country and everything, your support of Governor Palin. And, you're also featured, I know, in a video that Palin put out a little while back showing women's support for Governor Palin. I know you're featured in that, too.
Well, I know. I'm a mom. I'm really a mama grizzly.
That's it.
She tapped me as a mama grizzly. I was so thrilled when I saw that.
Hey, listen, if you talk to Congressman Emmer and Mrs. Emmer, please give them our best. And
I will, absolutely.
And, they're welcome here anytime as well. And we'd love to have you back, too, Debbie. You're great. It's great to talk to you.
Likewise. It's really fun. Anytime. You just give me a text and I'll respond.
Sounds good, Debbie. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. You have a great day.
For more, please visit DebbieTurnerOriginals.com. Now it's time for Sarah Palin News, headlines, and more about Governor Palin. Apparently, Michigan politicians find choosing life to be divisive. Governor Palin says North Carolina made the right choice in electing Deanna Ballard. Only 2 presidents have stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Their names? Reagan and Trump. That isn't sitting well with liberals. Palin stands with Rand Paul on health care. Palin blasts Chris Christie after Beachgate hits New Jersey. Allen West, right again. Lena Dunham, so wrong again. A happy Independence Day from Alaska, celebrating the original Brexit. Happy birthday, Willow Palin. Order a pizza, get a Target. Lindsay Lohan attacked online for simply making complete sense. Mourning the loss of an NYPD officer at the hands of a creep. Prayers for Solis, fighting for Charlie Gard. And thanks so much to Governor Palin for featuring my piece on North Carolina State Senator Deanna Ballard and my column on Glow, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. Please check both of them out at sarahpalin.com. To read about all of these stories, visit the Mama Grizzly Radio Facebook page. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety and to read her devotionals, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page. Follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA, and don't miss the new sarahpalin.com. Now let's head to the crow's nest. Here's Tanya Crow.
Thanks, Kevin. So this week had a lot of eventful scenarios for sure. The best of the best, I would say, one of which was the president's speech in Warsaw. Incredibly powerful. And the worst of the worst, the violent, pathetic, organized thugs in Hamburg during the G20 summit. And so interesting, the exposure of the media and their crooked, deviant ways in which they create narratives to push their agenda and their propaganda, and how the exposure of that is becoming greater and greater, just like the true vampires being exposed to the sun or the beacon of light that is Donald J. Trump and the citizens of this great country who don't believe that this nation needs to be fundamentally transformed, but is a constitutional republic whose history has unfortunately been rewritten in the institutions of our education in such a way that there are so many people out there that are ignorant to the accomplishments that this country has made and how fortunate we really are. And it's so exciting for me to see that it's finally being pushed back against by so many people out there who are finally coming out of the shadows and willing to take the punches that are so savagely pulled by the left, because they do hold seats of power and influence in our culture. But so many people are now no longer laying down and being bullied by the real bullies, by the real bigots, by the real fascists, by the people and the party that has been on the wrong side of history too many times, and therefore has tried to rewrite their own history. But the truth will always prevail. This is Tanya Crow with Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tanya Crow on Mama Grizzly Radio. More from the Crow's Nest next week. Now, the Palin Update with Kevin Scholla presents Liberty and Legacy. Here's Tamara Colbert.
This week, Donald Trump participated in his first G20 summit. I was extraordinarily proud of how the Trump administration was so prepared for everything. Every little detail, every contingency, and they were ready to go. The Trump presidency definitely has put America in a stronger position globally. Many people, though, don't understand what the G20 summit is really all about. Well, it's a central forum for international cooperation on financial and economic issues. The countries involved account for more than 4/5 of the gross world product, 3/4 of global trade, and almost 2/3 of the world's population. The reason the G20 was in Hamburg this year is because German Chancellor Angela Merkel is actually the G20 president this year. And this presidency changes annually. So whoever hosts the summit establishes the agenda, guides the talks, and hosts in their country the G20. This originally grew out of the G7, right, which was the original 7 industrialized democracies, and this really started back in 1999. World leaders traditionally focus on issues concerning global economic growth, international trade, and financial market regulation. I really want to be clear because this was very apparent last week. Obama did not have a clue about any of these things. I mean, I can imagine it just sailing right over his head. He was just a token wannabe globalist. Donald Trump, on the other hand, knows exactly what each one of these things is all about. He is a global businessman. He's had to make decisions based on these indicators. And unlike Obama, Trump has had to meet a payroll, hire and fire employees, and lead more than 100,000 employees all over the world in making his businesses great and excellent. And I got to say, none of these world leaders at this year's summit can actually hold a candle to the real world experience that President Donald Trump has. What I love is that Trump isn't part of the globalist cabal either. And that must scare these people to death because Trump means business. He doesn't play around, and he means his intention is to put the U.S. back at the forefront and the center position of prosperity, entrepreneurship, and freedom, central to all those other nations. I'm sad that the magnitude of his speech in Poland the day before was actually overshadowed by the Putin meeting and the rest of the anarchists that were acting a fool in Hamburg. But as the week ended, the Trump doctrine began to emerge, right? This is President Trump's way of reaffirming America's commitment to be the leader of the free world and his willingness to stand up and defend Western and Judeo-Christian civilization. 77 years ago, on June 18th, 1940, Winston Churchill told Britons they would have to fight Nazi Germany alone. Of course, that was the speech where Churchill closed with a ringing exhortation, saying in the future, he pledged the Battle of Britain would be remembered as the country's finest hour, of which it really was. Did Donald Trump channel Churchill this week? Absolutely. And President Reagan and many other past presidents as well. Someone has got to stand up to the world's globalist elite and tell them that America will not follow, America will lead. These globalists want nothing more than to bring America down to their level, their wishy-washy surrender of greatness to Muslim extremists and anarchist punks who want to take your wealth, your God-given rights, and your freedoms away. These elites try to pretend that freedom is so last century. And I love the fact that Trump and his administration's having nothing of it, right? It's awesome to watch. Peace and prosperity, along with the resurgence of freedom, might seem like a daunting task. But if anyone is up to the challenge, it's America. And with Donald Trump leading the way, this is going to be one heck of a ride. I hope you guys are all seatbelted in firmly. Trump's Poland speech emphasized people. And that Poland, while they were invaded and occupied, their borders erased from the map, that it would never be erased from history or your hearts. In those dark days during Nazi Germany's occupation, they had lost their land but not their pride. Trump talked about the free nations of the West unified by bonds of culture, faith, and tradition, as well as shared values such as innovation, creativity, exploration, the rule of law, and the right to free speech and expression, as well as family and faith. We know now that Western civilization is under attack. You and I see it every single day. Trump also mentioned the oppressive ideology of radical Islam that seeks to export terrorism and extremism all around the globe. And he continued by saying that the defense of the West ultimately rests not only on means, but on the will of its people to prevail and be successful, which he said raises the fundamental question of our time. Do we have the confidence in our values to defend them at any cost? Do we have enough respect for our citizens to protect our borders? Do we have the desire and courage to preserve our civilization in the face of those who would subvert and destroy it? Brilliant! Brilliant! And yes, it is time to ponder those questions. I would add one additional one for each of you listening. What are you willing to do to stand up in defense of the West and American values? Because we will either unite to work together to restore freedom, the rule of law, and our Constitution, or we will surely hang together. Tweet me this week at Tamara Colbert, hashtag Mama Grizz Radio, and let me know what your thoughts are of President Trump and how he handled the G20 summit. I'm Tamara Colbert for Mama Grizzly Radio. God bless President Trump, and God bless the resurgence that is happening with the United States of America and our leadership worldwide.
Tamara Colbert in Texas. Tune in for more liberty and legacy next week. And to learn about Convention of States, head to conventionofstates.com. And what a great job by Tamara this past week, appearing on the Patriot channel on Sirius Radio. Tamara hosting last week. Did an unbelievable job, well-deserved. The Palin Update, including Liberty and Legacy, on target, and The Crow's Nest is on demand and available for download. So just head to mamagrizzlyradio.com, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Visit mamagrizzlyradio.com for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also available at sarahpalin.com by clicking the More tab. Like Mama Grizzly Radio on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Mama Grizz Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Tamara Colbert, at Tanya Yoga 13, and at FBR ABQ. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Go to breitbart.com/columnists/Kevin-Scholla. I'm also contributing to sarahpalin.com. Please check out my latest piece this week. Visit sarahpalin.com/author/Kevin-Scholla. Honored to be working on the governor's new site. I want to thank Tamara Colbert, Tanya Crow, and everyone here at Mama Grizzly Radio. Thanks to Debbie Turner, and thank you for listening today. A special thanks to our sponsor, Full Battle Rattle. Visit facebook.com/FullBattleRattleABQ. The Palin Update is produced by Lena Anderson, the Andy L. Kramer, and Lori Ann Lewis. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update right here on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.